Uduasha city, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow. 800 years ago, the gates of death were broken by the Emperor Immortal. The 5 key-bearers, however, had already unlocked them and walked right through. It is in Uduasha city they dwell. Now, the ghost field breathes next to our reality, lit by the eternal flame of the well of Udu. It is a second skin, a place where thought and will struggle against gravity and light. In other places, the dead congregate in the ghost field, but in Uduasha, the well city, the hell city, they fall straight into the flames. See its glittering districts: Kshitijpur, where the rich plot to buy the horizon; Bunda West, where the refugees of 2 different nations flock; and Pasarhantu, the vertical maze of market and murder. And here is Udepat, where the Ceaseless Temple resides. Its inhabitants, a family, a snake, and a god. The temple has stood since before the gods of this world were forgotten. Watch as it turns the wheels of revolution. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about people who take risks so they can survive against the odds.
Hi everyone, welcome back to A Candle Ablaze, our Blades in the Dark game set in Uduasha. Last session, the crew went on a heist that they really didn't want to go on and ended up paying for something that they were meant to steal, namely some very complicated and delicate instruments used to what purpose it is not exactly clear to the crew right now, but will become very clear once Miraz has a look. Then we saw Freya poke into the identity of Mr. Peter Samhorse, a totally real person, I swear, who then, upon finding out that she was poking into his identity, promptly disappeared her. And I should mention that we did some of this off camera, so to speak, but we agreed that one of the logical consequences of Freya doing this was that Munna, the crime boss, who is the real identity of Mr. Peter Samhorse, would necessarily find out and promptly do something about it, which is to disappear her. And mechanically, what this means is that because in the base game, there is, a police force and a jail and so on, and that is the way you kind of get rid of wanted levels sometimes, is that you just go to jail. But in our Uduasha, that doesn't exist. Instead, what will happen is that Freya's disappearance by Munna will kind of work like that. So they have gone down a wanted level, and we did a roll off camera, and Freya's going to have a terrible time of it. But I'm sure that the crew are going to come to her rescue the second that they find out this has happened. And they have not found out quite yet. So, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm Tree, and with me are Aadiyat.
Hello.
Prince.
Hi.
Klow.
Hello, it's me.
And Emma.
Hello there.
That was a remarkably normal set of hellos. Well done, everyone.
Yes. I've been training.
Yes, I'm proud of you. So, I guess the other thing to mention is that we also rolled an entanglement after, which say again, off camera. And that entanglement was that you were about to be asked to do a favor by someone with whom you're on very good terms. In this case, the Skovlan refugees. And I think that's probably where we should start off our kind of free play, right? So I think what happens is, actually, you know what? Before that, the thing that I want to know is Miraz back from the hospital now?
Yeah. Do you want to do the scene where he comes back?
Yeah, I think that would be interesting, because I think that Miraz should be around for finding out that you're going to be asked for a favor.
we did last session see Abbas and Miraz talk a bit, like as
Yes.
he was recovering, but
Yeah. Will I be coming back into the temple, sort of, still like kind of like resting on a cane or something? You know, I'll recover. Just have been lying on my back for about a month or something.
Sure.
Maybe an arm over Abbas's shoulder. Is that a thing Abbas would allow?
Of course.
Oh yes, Miraz, you cannot. Of course, these kids they don't know how to walk. If I had taken a bullet back when I was a kid.
No, you're Miraz is Abbas's nephew. I mean, it's not even a question.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I misjudged you.
You should be sorry.
Yeah, Miraz. Like kids these days, you try to do. Try to be nice to them, and they just read into everything.
These kids always reading. Anyway, so that's I'm walking in, and I think as I'm walking in, the first thing I see is like all the electroplasmic lights and so on outside the temple now. So the new renovations have already begun, I suppose, following the. Well, we did some renovations anyway, but like the renovations that have followed the committee meeting, right? That's begun.
Yes, correct.
And I think Miraz is looking at them and is shaking his head, partly in disgust at what has been done without him, what has been planned without him, but also looking at his own creations, such as the spark-graph electroplasmic lights and so on. It just looks so gaudy. It just looks so tacky. And everyone's wrong. Everyone's wrong, including him.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is wrong. I'm curious, has Miraz drawn or, planned anything in the time that he was gone?
Yeah. Last session, at the end, he drew some plans for arcane words.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, I don't think he's had the time otherwise to draw anything. I think every now and then he'd wake up and like scribble something on his like bed sheets that I think like Amitabh's word, nurse words and so on, they'd like just remove.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I think as you come back, Miraz, you notice a difference, a layering in the temple. And I think the layering here is that you can see now not just how the temple is, but this sense of wrongness that everybody's wrong. You can feel this also because you can see how it should be, how it was in the future, kind of, how it is going to look in the past. And I think there is a part of you that realizes, and I think like what is happening here is that you're seeing the ghost echoes ability now reflecting on you.
I took a special ability. I wrote it. It's called Sacred Geometry.
Excellent.
With focused observation, you can declare the ways in which any constructed object falls short of perfection. You have +1 dice in pursuit of this perfection.
Fantastic. Okay. So yeah, I think that I think you can definitely kind of tell that, like, now in the temple, in some fashion, the past and future have changed, merged. It's not exactly clear which of these things it's done, but it's done something, right? And you see, because we did see that Padmamukhi got Freya a copy of Freya's ghost key off her, right? You see her open a door that may not have been there the last time you were here. Maybe it's a new construction, who knows? But you see her open this door with this key and walk in, or no, I think you see her lock it because she's coming out. She locks it, puts the key back in her pocket, and looks at you and says, "Miraz, you are finally back. All healed up?"
Yes, I am all healed up and ready to get back to the drawing board. Say, well, where'd you get that key? What is that?
And I think, is she gonna lie to you? You know what? I'm just gonna see if she's gonna lie to you. I will roll Only one die because you are, after all, the high priest of. She rolled a 6. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think she says. Well, the little ruffian who is wandering around, your Freya, your princess, happened to have this on her. It's quite dangerous, and I confiscated it, and it's been quite useful in its own way.
Freya. Who was Freya again? Wait, Freya. Freya was the refugee, right? The one who thought she was the queen of the world. What's she doing in here, Uncle Abbas?
Well, in here, as in the temple? Well, after we rescued her, where else was she going to go?
Well, I suppose, but it just seems like... Anyway, Mira's, he's got a lot of misgivings about, sheltering even more fugitives from the Empire, but, at this point, what else is there to say? And then he turns to... was it Padmapriya?
It was Padmamukhi. It was the less nice one.
Okay. And he'd say, Can I see the key? Can I have it? I mean, maybe I can make you a copy.
I think she peers at you and she says, "Oh, I don't think you should be straining yourself like this. Not so soon. If I see you working too hard, I will tell Vickers. You hear me? And that is a threat."
Yeah, I think Miraz is going to look at the key for a bit, and then he's going to shake his head, and then he's going to turn to Abbas and say, "Well, maybe she is right. Maybe I should be resting a bit more, Uncle Abbas."
I mean, I could make a copy of the key for you.
Oh, that would be very nice. Yes, I'm sure Padmamukhi would be very happy to give a key to the temple over to the high priest and the oldest serving member of the congregation as well.
And Padmamukhi, as you well know, has no polite way to tell you to go fuck yourself. So she instead says, I think, well, I mean, of course, if that is your desire, then I will arrange it. But I will, if it is acceptable to you, I will consult with my sister to ensure that all proper protocol is followed.
Mm-hmm. And Abbas can tell when someone's lying, right?
Yep.
The proper protocol to give me a key to the temple where we all live, so I can make a copy of it in my office, which will take maybe 5 minutes. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
It is a dangerous artifact, Abbas Bhai. It is something that was secreted into the temple by as Miraz well knows, a foreign agent, someone who was under the influence of a god.
Well, you're quite right. Okay, I think in that case, not only should I make a copy of this key, I should take the key off you so that I may properly study it in my office, where I have the proper tools.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this is a roll.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can do this. And I think the risk here is that she has already made a copy of herself, for herself, there is a copy of herself, it's her sister, haha. Mm-hmm. So the risk here is that she will give you the key, but she will also have it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, I guess.
And I think I'm going to assist you by Miraz kind of leaning on his stick and saying, and consider it also a very sincere request from the high priest.
Very good, yeah. And I have a devil's bargain for you here, which is that I was just looking at our clocks sheet, and it may have become irrelevant, but I'm going to make it relevant again, which is way back at the beginning of the campaign, we had the wheel turns on Abbas. And it might mean something different now. It might even mean something revelatory, but if I get to tick it once, I think you can get a die here. Because this is very directly connected to the temple and the past and the future.
You know what? I think I take that, because makes sense.
Yep. Great. Okay. Critical!
Well,
okay.
That was worth it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you why it was worth it. Because as you can see, Padmamukhi for a second, think I'm really going to do this. All of you feel in the temple something shift almost imperceptibly. You can't really put your finger on what it is that has changed. But maybe in the TV show, what the camera sees is that some pattern on the floor, some tiles, something has shifted minutely. And in that moment of uncertainty, I think Padmamukhi feels something divine is going on, and then accepts basically that this is what needs to happen. And I think what she will do is, I think the critical effect here is that she will actually offer to help. So she'll give you the key and she will say, of course, the instructions of the high priest are my pleasure to carry out. If you require any assistance or advice or insight, I have been studying this for some time, and so has my sister, and we will be very happy to offer our aid if you should need it.
Mm-hmm. So, as I understand this, on a success, we have a ghost key. We have the copy that was magically created of the ghost key. And on a crit, we can also gain her assistance in creating another copy of this key, so we can have another ghost key. Okay?
Yeah. And also studying it, so if you want something out of the key, if you want a room that nobody else can get into, so, things like that, right? Whatever. She will absolutely work on that with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for now, Miraz is... Who does she give the key to? Because I think Miraz has his hand out too.
Yeah, I mean, if Miraz has his hand out... Oh, but it was Abbas who rolled, no? I think, Abbas, you tell me. Who does she give the key to? Because I could see it either way.
You know what? I think she might be giving the key. She might make a move to give the key to Miraz, but I feel like Abbas is going to politely intercept. After all, he's the one who convinced her, and he's the one in the best position to study this. And Miraz, yes. you need to rest.
Determine who should have it.
Yes, me.
Indeed. And as you intercept, I think she kind of nods, gives it to you, and says, yes, best that the high priest rests.
Yes, the high priest kind of looks miffed at this, and I think there's a flash in his eyes, but he just leans on his cane and says, "Yes, I will rest. I would like to have a look at it later."
Of course, Miraz. Just my door's always open.
Yes. But speaking of doors, I would like nothing more than to walk to the door of my own bedroom and see my wife. Where is Vickers? And where is cousin Joan? It's been a while.
Last session when we left, Vickers was still playing roofball against the Skovlanders, so I don't know if this is before or after that, or if she is currently away having that match.
I think that there is no way Vickers would not be here when her husband is returning to the temple.
Yeah, my question is mostly would this be after I have received news from the Skovlanders about whatever it is they want?
Yeah, maybe it is.
Maybe you can come with them.
Yeah.
In that case, I would request, I think it makes sense that Vickers is here when Miraz comes back, but in that case, we may want to resolve what actually happens first.
Yes.
Yes, okay, fair. Okay.
That away.
So, as you're playing roofball, Vickers, I think you notice that there are some people here who you would not normally expect to be here. I mean, obviously, Marion is here, and she's in fact playing against you. But I think in Freya's absence, especially over the last couple of months, not new necessarily, but new to us players in the politics of the Skovlanders have arisen, right? And I think that the audience, some of them are looking kind of bored by the roofball that's occurring, and they're kind of waiting for it to get over, right? Because they're here to talk politics and ask you for a favor, right? So they're gonna wait for you to finish, and then they will approach you.
So it's not Marion asking me, it's some people I don't know are waiting to speak with me.
Yeah, I think Marion is one of these people. But she's not the leader.
Okay.
I think there's a few people now who are all influential. They've all got their factions inside the revolutionaries. And probably some internal power struggle that we don't need to worry about has already occurred for them to settle on this as the thing they're going to do, which is ask you for a favor.
Okay, absolutely. So, we will see Vickers being flung from a rooftop by Marion and crash down in front of these people, like knocking aside a bunch of stuff, debris, landing in the dust, going like, oh dear, I seem to have been outplayed. Except that, of course, this is not the ball, this is a cabbage. Augustus, score for me, will you? And then she climbs to her feet as Augustus Khan scores the winning goal.
Augustus Khan yells, "Viva la Udwasha!" And scores a very stylish goal. And the stands like erupt, mostly in boos because you're playing them in their home ground. But you've got like a fair number of fans now. You're tier 1. So
So Vickers, seeing these people having landed next to them, climbs to her feet and says, someone said you wanted a word with me. We might as well speak over cabbage soup, I suppose. It would be a shame to see this go to waste.
Indeed. And I think that as Marion kind of like looks down, like spits, just being like, fuck, I can't believe like I got baited into this. Of course, Augustus Khan was the person I was meant to be looking at,
Yeah.
And then says, I need a word with you. Need a word with all of you, actually. And it's not just me. And then she kind of waves and a couple of people walk over. And I have 2 names for them, but I don't know anything else. So I will nominate like all of you to tell me something about them. I think one of them is a woman. Her name is Dagmar. And the other one is also a woman. And her name is Helga. I like Helga as a name.
Dagmar and Helga, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they turn up, and I think what I want to know is if Marion is I think she's the leader of the old loyalists, right? The people who were like hardcore Freya supporters who've now consolidated under Marion because Marion's the person who's left, right? So what do you think the other 2 factions here are? Like, what do you think the Helga and Dagmar's individual like groups could be characterized as?
I will go first with one of them, and it so happens that I had a great aunt named Dagmar, so I'm going to base this character off of her. And she is a very old woman. She has like thick curly hair and very intense eyes, and is like looks at everyone with a very, very scrutinizing look. And given that this is the personality we're giving her, I think it makes sense that she belongs to some sort of Skovlan like religious faction. Like she's some sort of
absolutely.
I don't know if we haven't established anything about the Skovland faiths and whatnot, if they even have one.
We know there is one temple called the Temple of the Salt Shore in Skovlan, but that's the only thing we know.
Yes. So I think anyway that she is. Let's have her be some sort of religious representative then. So the second estate in Skovlan, not the first. Meaning she was never associated with the kings and stuff. She's more about the traditional faith.
Yeah. Maybe she's like. I'm actually looking up your Skovlan playbooks because I remember. Yes, I think she's a skald, right?
Yep.
She is a religious figure, but she's also kind of a performer. So she one of the ways in which she's like gathered power is absolutely that she's a remember of old history.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is her trait. She has an eidetic memory. She has like 100% perfect memory.
Yeah,
and that's
very
like
good.
why she's risen to power. Cool. Someone else can come up with the details for Helga.
I can go, though we haven't heard Emma yet. Emma, do you have any ideas?
Here. I have an idea. Yeah. So what I think, I was trying to phrase it. So what I think we see is, Marion can appear like kind of tough, but it pales in comparison to like the amount of hard ass that Helga is.
Nice.
She is half Sephirothi. She is. She looks like she's been like camping recently in like a really like in the wilderness. As weird as that may be, and the kind of her faction's thing is that they are like, we should just leave these stupid cities to the Empire. They are not able to be saved. We should reclaim the rest of Skovlan.
Right.
From the ghosts.
So they're Deathland scavengers, basically.
Basically.
Do you think that, like, the way that she's pitching this, that there is some kind of, like, old Skovish method of dealing with ghosts that she is proposing that they kind of, like, revive?
That's very likely, yes.
Yeah.
She's also half Severusi, and that's what the Severusi do. So I guess, I guess she's also trying to create some sort of like new cultural identity that marries the two somehow.
Yeah, I think her Severosi heritage shows her that it's possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think like it is that she knows that it's possible, and she remembers and she's still a nationalist, right? So she's still like, we should believe in like the way that we used to do things in Skovlan, and like I think she's proposing that unlike say Dagmar, who is suggesting, like something very traditional, very like, pray to the gods and everything will be okay, that kind of thing, or that's how she characterizes it anyway. I think Helga is saying that we should take inspiration from the ways we should do things, and then we should invent a new kind of thing. We should go into the future and not be stuck in the past. And, worrying about the way these cities work and stuff, that's not for us. Great. So I think we see...
Sorry, I thought of one more thing for Dagmar, which, after like reflecting on it for a second, the name means day maiden. So I think that, in fact, the Skovlanders worshipped the sun before it died.
Excellent.
And now they have some sort of like, there is a remnant of the sun in the sky above our bleak and dark city. And that's probably they have some sort of myth about like the resurrection of the sun.
Nice. Yes, absolutely.
A lot of their hardliners. One of the things that the hardline religious faction in Skovlan wants to do, and it's entirely possible, none of us know about this. One of the things they want to do in Uduasha is blow up the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah.
Their false sun.
Their heresy.
Yeah. Great. Okay. It's totally fine, guys. Not even a problem.
I'm not saying Dagmar's involved with that. It might just be the fringe of the fringe of the fringe.
Yeah. But she's aware that those fringe people exist, right? Yeah. Probably she does spend a little bit of time being like, better make sure these people get nowhere near power, because that would be a terrible idea, right? Yeah. So I think that like they come up to you, the rest of your team are kind of still like celebrating. They're throwing Augustus Khan in the air, which is not an easy feat. He's not a small man.
I think he was the hero of this match, because when I rolled to Indulge Vice, I didn't roll like very well. So I think it's one of those. I rolled a 4, which I interpreted as like we win, but it's it's not Vickers who gets the glory this time.
Yeah, I mean, and you're still like the captain, and like you made the play, but he's the one that scored the final. Like, absolutely.
It's more on him this match. Yep.
Yeah, very fine. So as they walk up to you, I think Marion introduces you to Helga and Dagmar, and says, "Oh, we had a favor we wanted to ask of you, and well, I think that Helga and Dagmar would appreciate seeing your temple as well. So we were hoping that we might be able to return with you. I personally didn't really want to impose on you like this." And you can see there is also like a bit of like, I don't want to be anywhere near Joan, please. She's done some weird fucked up shit. She said, but she kind of says, they kind of feel that this is our best option. So if you don't mind, we have a proposal for you.
So Vickers looks a little awkward and goes like, "Oh, well, I don't have anything prepared, but I suppose I can send word ahead and have someone cook something up."
I think as you say this, Marion will immediately, remembering the last time, say, "Oh, not to worry. Dagmar's just told us that today is a day for fasting, so we are eating nothing but." And then she's like trying to come up with something, and Dagmar says, "We are only eating what has been made in our own kitchens, and our kitchens are shut today, so I'm afraid we cannot partake. But if you have chai, we will gladly drink." And she's very sweet. She's a sweet old lady.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I can whip up some chai. I don't suppose it should be a problem. Then I suppose the cabbage is for later. Because and I think Marion is just thinking in her head, there's no way she can fuck up chai, right? But we'll find out if that's true. Great. So, I think Vickers is probably not aware that today's day Miraz is released from the hospital because one, she would definitely be there, like she would not have a match on that day. But I also think, you know, it's not like, you know, Amitabh is a traditional doctor. I don't think he goes like, we'll sign you out in 7 days. He'll be like, you look well enough now, you can leave. It's like, you know, very much vibes-based medicine. So,
yeah, I mean, you can come back if you need me. Don't worry about it. Okay, bye.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Great. Yeah, and I guess you flag down an urchin, send them ahead. And I guess what is happening, in fact, is Miraz, as you say, where's Joan and where's Vickers? We see like Vickers kind of approaching. Right?
Yeah,
like, so,
we see Vickers approaching. And we also see Padma Priya, who was not present, right? She has made the chai.
Correct. She comes out with like a big kettle. She's setting out some glasses, and she looks at Miraz and she says, "Oh, Miraz, you're back? Oh, what an unexpected pleasure. Vickers is just about to come with some guests. Are you well to sit down and socialize? Do you want me to make an excuse?"
Oh, Miraz, you're back. Are you feeling alright? Are you sure you shouldn't be resting any further? Did Amitabh sign you out already? How? And Vickers will step forward and immediately, like, physically fuss over you, right? Like, she will be pulled into a hug, but not before having, like, checked your wound with her hands. But
yes.
No, my large intestine is where it should be. Don't know so much about the small intestine. Can you feel it? Is it in there?
I think Vickers will poke you in some imitated attempt at what she has seen doctors do, and be like, "Dear, I don't know. How do you test if chakras are aligned again?" Like trying to remember what she knows of.
Yeah, somewhere Abbas's close friend Tripadna is like shuddering as this is happening.
Yes.
Why? You know, like not even knowing. Sometimes you just get feelings.
Yeah, but Vickers says like, "Well, if he said you were well enough, then I suppose you must. But you do be very careful, man. Although it's so very good to have you back." And then I think then she will relax and like accept the embrace, right?
Yeah. And, after the embrace, Miraz kind of pulls away, and then he kind of looks at you and says, "I've heard that guests are coming. Let's see, every single time I've heard this phrase, it has been some Skovlanders coming in here asking us to help with their revolution. I'm sure it can't happen at Oh, wait, no, that's what's happening, isn't it?"
Yeah, Vickers looks a little awkwardly behind her at the three Skovlanders approaching.
"It's not Marion that's coming, right?" says Joan from like a corner.
"Oh, hello, cousin Joan. I'm back from the hospital."
"Yes, wonderful. I was just on my way down." And she like kind of picks at her teeth and picks at something that she took out and flicks it away.
"Have you eaten anything else interesting recently? I think one of my last memories was you eating, yes.
Probably better than your hospital food. Although I guess it wasn't that kind of hospital, right?"
Actually, Amitabh's food was amazing. It was some of the best. He was about to say some of the best food he's eaten in months, and then he says, "It was very good."
Vickers nods and says, "Oh yes, he's quite good at what he does, isn't he? Now, I know the flavor isn't always the best compared to other sources of food, but it is very healthy."
"But seriously, who are you bringing? I do hope you're not bringing Marion. She hasn't been responding to any of my urchins."
It was some friends of hers. I'm not entirely sure, and I guess she looked behind herself, because I imagine the Skovlanders are not, like, far behind.
Yep. And Marion is there, but Marion has an expression on her face, Joan, that I think only you will recognize. And it is the expression of, like, really not wanting to be somewhere and not having a choice about it. It's kind of a grumpy irritation. And that's not really what most people see on Marion's face.
Triple threats, wonderful.
So do you reckon Joan would know the other two?
I think Joan knows the other two as like, oh yeah, those are more fanatical than Marion.
Yeah. And I think they seem to be kind of like having some hushed conversation. They clam up when they approach like the temple, and you see Dagmar look up at the structure and then murmur something under her breath that seems to be like some kind of religious like little thing, being like, "Oh, blessings be upon me and the house into which I enter," or something like that. And she is waiting for you to invite her inside. Helga is like, "What are you doing?" and walks in. And Marion does not want to come in. She's terrified now. So she's gonna pretend.
I'm inviting people, obviously, as I see them.
Excellent.
Like, Vickers will glance briefly at Joan with like a look of, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, I probably didn't want to meet Marion. My bad," right? But then she will turn back to the guests and go like, "Well, do enter. Hospitality is one of our principles. The chai should be just about ready." And then she turns back to Miraz, Joan, and Abbas, I think, and goes like, I'm dreadfully sorry. We were playing Roofball, and, well, I couldn't say no, could I?
No, it's quite all right. It's quite all right.
I admit what I really want to do is go lie down and not deal with any more Skovlander nonsense.
Oh, well, in that case, Miraz, I think I'd better see to you. Joan, Abbas, do you mind taking care of our guests for a moment?
No,
I think,
Whoa, hang on a minute.
I should go.
Hang on a minute. Vickers calls Abbas by his first name?
Oh, no. She calls him Uncle Abbas. Yes, I forgot. Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, it's always Uncle Abbas. You're quite right.
I was going to come down with a fit there.
Yes. Oh, that's my bad.
Yeah. So I think Miraz says, that he wants to lie down, but like, no, he should be involved, because clearly decisions have been happening without him anyway.
Yeah, a kerfuffle ensues before everyone sits down for chai, I think is the summary of the...
No, sit down.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, I think Padmapriya kind of serves everybody. I think, in fact, as she begins to, we probably see Helga, who, as you say, is more of a hard ass and more of a very, bite the bullet, just get shit done kind of person. In this way, however, will be like, no, let me help you. And then the two of them kind of figure it out, serve the chai, and while you are kerfuffling, Padmapriya is making friends.
Mm-hmm. A table is arranged, and everyone will be seated so that they may speak to the high priest, which I guess they weren't expecting to meet, but now he's here, so...
Yeah. In fact, I think Dagmar will say, I was not aware that you had returned from your hospital visit, was it?
Yes, I'm back. Hi.
Indeed, a pleasure to meet you. I am Dagmar, a skald of the Skovish tradition. I understand you already know Marion, and this is my... And a brief pause as she's compatriot, Helga.
I look at them and I kind of give polite smiles, waiting for them to come to some sort of point.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I should say that he's been back for approximately 5 minutes, so we probably shouldn't drag this out too much.
And I think Helga will say, excellent. In that case, let me make this very quick. Marion tells me that you're a friend to the Scottish and you've done loads of good work for us. And we've done loads of good work for you, or so I hear. Marion's people certainly have. We need some help. And you're influential in Uduasha, and you know people, and they know people. And, well, we're in a bit of a pickle with these Catholic refugees who are also in Bundavest. Now, I think we should just kick them out, not worry about it. They are definitely disrespecting us, but Dagmar seems to think a softer approach might work. What that approach is, I don't know. But, well, if you want me to come to the point is we're having some trouble and we would like some help with it.
I don't know if you should be calling them refugees as such. I mean, they're just a bunch of farmers who couldn't get with the times, and then they lost all their jobs, and now they're over here. Your people are refugees. They just couldn't cut it.
I'm sorry. Do you want us to remove some refugees?
They aren't refugees.
You want us to remove some people from a neighborhood? I mean, I think everyone here will agree that this is not what this temple is about.
And I think Dagmar will say, no, Helga in her trademark blunt phrasing has not exactly... What we mean to say is that we've had some trouble with some swordsmen, the rising moon, the rising star, something of this kind. They are Kethrisi ne'er-do-wells, and I'm afraid that some of their people and some of our people have fallen into some violence. We are hoping that we might stop this violence before it escalates. And what is happening here is that the Kethrisi farmers who are from a different part of Iruvia, who have settled in Bundavest because, as Mira says, they weren't able to adapt to the ways that, like, the industry was changing because the industry didn't care about them.
Yeah, radiant energy.
Yeah, radiant energy, indeed. Slowly becoming, they are falling under the sway of the rising moon style of swordsmanship, which also makes it its home in Uduasha. And over the last, I would say, 3 to 6 weeks, what had been simmering tensions has now become basically full-on war. People have died on both sides, and this seems to be a last-ditch attempt by everybody on the Skovish revolutionary side who have at least agreed to be like, let's try something before we commit to, one or the other. And they're probably getting pressure also from the noble houses, from various other people being like, you better make peace.
I have a question here. How does Abbas view the martial arts schools, like the sword schools that we have in Uduasha?
I want to add a little bit of flair here that might actually help Abbas answer, which is because I wrote up the Rising Moon. So the Rising Moon is like in the Blades manual. That's like one of the sword styles from Iruvia. It's like they use a sickle. So like part of my idea there was that it's not really a proper sword school. Like it's not got, pedigree, it's not got noble history and so on. Like it's not respected. It's basically just a bunch of farmers who also fight with a sickle. And they have developed their own style. It's kind of like a grassroots martial arts thing. It's very leftist and so on. I suppose we'd put it that way in the real world. But they don't call it that, obviously. So like, and now they're basically a gang. I don't know if Abbas has even heard of them. Well, Abbas probably has, but none of us probably have.
Okay, so heavily armed farmers. All right. But yeah, I think Vickers would look to Abbas to see, what he thinks about the heavily armed farmers.
I don't know. I think Abbas would have a fairly a bit of sympathy towards them because I think he'd know about like their situation and all right. So do we have any further detail about them not being able to? Okay, so I mean, especially because them not being able to move with the times is because of
accuracy,
radiant energy. So yeah, I think even if they're causing trouble in the city, I think Abbas's take would be that, oh well, you have to look at the systemic problems here. Yes, we can't just go.
You have to look at the. Yeah, you're right.
Is this what you say? That you have to look at the systemic problems?
Well, I mean, what's the question from Vickers? Like, or
Yeah, she asked like what?
Yeah.
She didn't outright ask, but she looked to you for advice. Like, can you explain this?
Vickers. So the situation basically is that, and don't take this the wrong way, but I gotta say, and he looks meaningfully at Vickers, like, okay, not you, like the bad type, not you, have been displacing in various ways, economics, you know how it is. These Gethrusi farmers, and having lost their livelihood, they've moved into the city. They're doing the best that they can, and there's a lot of really good literature about how there's the rising poverty, leads to rising crime. And I think this goes on for a while, and he says that basically, I think they're good people, just fallen onto hard times.
Well, then, we ought to help them get out of trouble and not get in fights with other people. You know, Bundevest is quite crowded. I'm wondering if someone's exploiting these poor people. Vickers says with the look of I have discovered a deep conspiracy. People exploit people sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think when you say this, Helga will say, "No, they're not exploiting. They're not exploiting anybody. They're just a bunch of violent and good-for-nothing thugs." And I'm not going to lie. We also have violent, good-for-nothing thugs in our ranks. But let me be serious. We are just trying our best. And, well, the Gethrusi have a lot of pull with the bureaucracy that we can't do very much about. And it is more than a few people I know have died. And I think Abbas can say that it's not like 100 people have died. So she's laying it on a bit thick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more than a few.
Yeah.
Exactly started these hostilities, though? Why did this violence erupt between you and them?
And I think when you ask this, you see Marion finally kind of start to talk, and until now she's been kind of silent, and she says, "Well, ever since Freya disappeared, we've been pressured by a lot of people to get out of the city. And, well, Freya was kind of the glue holding all of us together. Once she left, people wanted to move in. People started saying, what did we do for them anyway?" And I'm not sure who threw the first stone, but I think we were provoked. I think they're looking for an excuse so they can say that we're creating too much trouble, and then they can have all of Bundevest to themselves.
I think Miraz then kind of leans forward and says, "Listen, I know what happens in these in the hospitality ghetto in Bundevest. Everyone knows about all the drugs and all the brothels and the vice dens and so on. And I know you would say that it's all for the greater good, that it's all the money goes into the cause and so on. But I'm sure they would say the same. And let's be honest, if that's what's happening, isn't it? Your side businesses, both of your groups, there's been people getting killed that way, isn't it?" And he leans back as though it must be the case. And I don't know if it is actually out of character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are not going to appreciate this. So unless something happens right now, Dagmar is gonna.
Something will happen, I think, because Vickers is having a bright and terrible idea. So she says, well, Freya might be gone, but you're still working with that fellow Hardil Subramanian, aren't you? Here's an idea. Why don't we get these poor farmers jobs for Mr. Semhorse's glass-blowing business?
Oh, Vickers, that's a great idea.
So
by providing employment,
yeah,
we can take all this trouble off the streets.
Yes.
And I think Marion says, that man was bad news. I'm glad we don't have to deal with him anymore. And to be perfectly honest, I do not appreciate the implication that somehow what is happening here is that we want to save the illegal things that we're doing. Okay? And I think she looks straight at you, Joan, and says, is this really how your family talks about us?
Well, not everyone sees the world the way you do.
Indeed.
Yeah, Vickers will scramble to try to diplomatically save the situation because this is getting awkward. So she leans forward and says, well, no one is accusing anyone for doing what they must under difficult circumstances. It is as exactly as Uncle Abbas has said, it is all about economics, which is a very dark science that very few of us can claim to understand. And
Sure, yeah.
What have you done for them, Marion?
Ideological battle. I love this. I think Marion looks at you, Joan, and says, I kept them together after whatever it is you did in the temple. And then like a note of fear enters her voice because she's been avoiding thinking about it. And she says, you know, when you completely destroyed any semblance of unity among the revolutionaries, someone had to make sure that if they didn't, completely fall crack under the pressure, I had to step up. That's what I've done.
If all their unity was based on that thing, I don't know what that was worth. But you are right. It's a problem now.
And Dagmar will basically just at this point say, the Temple of the Ceaseless Wheel is known for its hospitality. I'm falling at your feet. Please help us. And she is going to, I think, genuinely, if you don't stop her, fall on her feet. Fall on your feet. You know what I mean.
Whose feet?
Miraz's, you're the head priest.
Oh no.
So Vickers goes like, oh, that shan't be necessary, because that sounds like a very awkward situation.
It is incredibly awkward.
Yeah, really, we'll be glad to help out, won't we? And she looks around at everyone else.
Please get up. And then so wait, hold on. And then he kind of says, as though suddenly like possessed by another thought, the Kingfisher Grotto. Is it in the middle of all of this?
I think it will be in the middle of all of this. I think Marion will say, of course it's in the middle of all of this. It's, I don't know. It's got a weird energy, but it is incredibly well placed. Everybody wants a piece of it.
Yeah, because you can hide drugs in there.
I beg your pardon?
You can hide drugs in there.
Yes.
And again, Dagmar will be like, I understand that you have no reason, particularly, to trust us, but I hope that all of the good work that you have done, we are nothing but grateful.
But listen. You don't have to beg. You don't have to do the whole on the knees thing. I mean, we can even pretend your people aren't selling drugs. The Kachezis aren't selling drugs. We can all pretend all of that is happening. But I need the grotto. There's some things I need to do in there. And I think Abbas has already heard what I want to do there. I want to kind of like create a franchise, sort of like little chapel, franchise the temple or something.
Yeah, we're expanding.
Yeah, I don't know if the others have heard. So this is probably the first time they're hearing that we need the Kingfisher Grotto for something, as far as Miraz is concerned. But listen, we'll do this for you. We'll frame it however you want, but I need the grotto. For me, it's a mutual partnership, okay? If we do this for you, you make sure that I get to do my business in the grotto undisturbed.
And I think Helga will say, and she's been kind of sneering at the old woman all of this time. Helga will say, you apologize for what you said about the Scottish, and I will personally make sure that you get the grotto and you get whatever you want. You can do whatever you want inside.
But what did they say about Scottish?
Right?
Oh, no, that's not everyone does drugs.
I think Vickers will intervene once again, like put a hand on yours and say, just like, what he means to say is there was no ill will meant. It's, it's all just economics, she says desperately.
Yeah. And I think it's really good that you have them kind of over a barrel, because these are all nationalists in one way or another, and they would absolutely, be very unhappy about this, but they have no choice. Is the point.
Yep.
We would never sell a drug to fund a revolution.
No.
No, who would do that?
Yeah, who would do that? Yeah.
Not a single one.
Is that the scene, or is there more to it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the scene. I think like they're like, we're basically out of ideas. You are the one faction probably in the city that's on good terms with us. We'll do whatever you want. You want the grotto, you can have it.
So I think I want to out of character suggest what Vickers suggested in character, because I think it's a very fun idea. We get the Kethris to work for Munna. We're on good terms with Munna, so then we can tell them to do something else.
I think Abbas is on board with this because, like, we know that, like, when I was lying about employing employing Iruvian labor, right? And so I think he would like to engineer a situation where they must employ Iruvian labor.
Yeah. So the plan is to force Munna to employ these Kethris people somehow. He may not employ them in like entirely savory business, of course, but Vickers doesn't know that. Abbas probably knows and suspects it, but
I wonder if and of course he's a crime boss. I'm sure he would love to hang out with a crime syndicate.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know about all of that, of course. We just know about a Iruvian entrepreneur.
Yeah, we know that this Samhorse guy is kind of shady, but so far he seems to be shady in a mostly benevolent direction. So,
yes, correct. Yeah, and I think that like there's a few ways you could go about this, even in like trying to convince him, right? Because I don't even know if you can necessarily go and talk to him, but I think you'd definitely be able to go and force your way in. Like there's a lot of stuff that could be happening here. So
what I suggest is to cut to the action. Is that we have a chat with Hardil, and he's like, "Yeah, we've tried to hire them, but they refused."
Yeah,
and then we need to apply pressure to them somehow.
Yes.
Like, rather than have a whole scene with Hardil just negotiating, just be like, yeah, we would love to hire them. Unfortunately, they refused.
And I think, like, maybe it's not, you don't even have a conversation. Like, you just, like, send a message, you get a message back being like, they wouldn't do the work.
Yeah.
If you can get them to do the work for us, great. And Hardil is not going to mention, by the way, that Freya is with him or anything.
Oh.
Because I think he's probably figured out that this is something Freya was doing on her own, and you don't know about it. So, fantastic.
One thing here, though. So, out of character, and this is entirely, at a meta level, because none of us would know about any of this. If Munna doesn't already have connections to the Rising Moon and the Kethrisi gangs and refugees, or like that entire underworld, then there must be a very good reason why they don't seem to want to work with him. And I'm wondering if Hardil tells us that, what the reason is.
That makes sense. Yeah, that gives us an angle. I agree.
Yeah, I think, like, I can think of a reason, but let's actually make this the kind of, like, gather info thing, right? Like, what you do when you do the score, right? So, there is a reason, and if you give me, like, 30 to 60 seconds, I'll come up with it. But I also definitely think that...
because I think the difficulty here is that... So, as far as we're concerned, there's no particular reason for Mr. Peter Samhorse to have already had contact with them. So there's no particular reason for us to imagine that Mr. Peter Samhorse is someone that they've already, for some reason, taken against. Because because we don't know Mr. Peter Samhorse is Munna. So does any of us think to ask this question in character? Because I sure as hell would not.
Think to ask what question exactly? Like, why?
Investigate this angle at least. Like, it's like, okay, but like, why?
Yeah, I think Vickers will do it, and kind of accidentally, because I think Vickers, for whatever reason, I suppose, Miraz needs to rest. So Vickers will deliver this message, I think. So she will go down to the Foundation and make sure the message gets through. And she will kind of phrase it, not as like, why won't these people work for you? But like, is there any reason why they couldn't work in your glassblowing industry? I don't see the reason. Why wouldn't you hire them? And then there would be an answer of like, well, I would, except X.
Yeah. So why don't you roll, as a 40 roll to gather info, And I think a very straightforward devil's bargain here is that he will get a very good idea of exactly like how worried you are, if at all, about Freya. Because right now he doesn't have that, like, he has the information from whoever he has watching you or whatever, but like this is like, because you're so open, he's going to be able to figure out, he's going to ask you some questions about Freya, whatever you answer, he'll be like, okay, I know exactly what the current situation is and how careful I have to be about it.
Is that a devil's bargain, you said?
Yes, yeah.
And I will not take it, because Vickers is not that scrutable. Like, it's not that she doesn't give away anything on purpose, it's just that Vickers can be very hard to read.
Yeah, very reasonable. Yeah, absolutely.
So I roll consort and I get a 4 on gathering this information. So probably, I guess I have a chat with Hadil in person. I guess I go down to the Foundation and meet him.
And I think the reason that he meets you, by the way, is that he like looks at you and says, "Did you really like leave a check, like in my name? Like, is that really what happened?" And like he's like laughing about it. He's like, I think, genuinely amused, right?
Yeah, and I think Vickers is very confused because he told us he was trying to buy it and they wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We fixed it.
And I think he basically mentions that like the person in charge of, I think like the Rising Moon School is grassroots and probably now is like spread across at least Iruvia, and we know it's in Dustfall, but the person who's in charge of it in Uduasha is, and he kind of goes, for some reason, I don't know why, but he's personally set against working with Mr. Samples. And he has rebuffed all offers quite violently. And if Abbas was here, he would be able to tell that like the offers weren't made politely. The offers were also made violently. But the way he makes it out to you is that like we were just asking a question, he punched us in the face. Who does that?
Yeah. So we need to learn more about this gang leader, I guess. I guess that's the next step. But Vickers will, suppose, return with this information. But like it seems like some particularly unpleasant man has gathered up these poor innocent peasants and is exploiting them.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Vickers, it's called a crime boss.
Not at all like Mr. Sam Host.
Yeah, but you know, it turns out that some crime bosses has gathered these peasants and is making them do violent stuff. This is. So
all you need to do is stop him.
I vote that we learn more about him, and I also vote that he is a really unpleasant fellow, so that we can.
I think that we'll see how well your gather info goes, and depending on that, we'll find out how unpleasant he is.
Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take inspiration from the story Prince was telling us in the morning about the Swedish newspapers and how they have these they report all the gang crime with colorful nicknames.
Yes.
I'm going to read the news.
You're going to read the newspapers about this man, yeah?
I'm sure his name is on there, his address is on there.
Well, his crimes are probably there, so...
Yeah, based on your role, who knows? Maybe like a groundbreaking investigative report has just been published.
And this also establishes that Miraz is not in the habit of reading newspapers and keeping up with what's going on.
Yeah, but I think the reason that you're reading newspaper now is that you're with Sajidan, who is very worried about you. And like you're hanging out with him, and he's reading the newspaper. So you're reading it with him.
Oh no, that's what I get. 2, 1, and a 3.
And it was a 2, 1, and a 3. Okay.
Can I just get bad information?
I don't think it's bad information. I think you get good information, but you get good information that is not what you want to hear, which is that you find out that what has happened is that, so this person, let's give him a name, Ramu. His name is Ramu. And he is a salt of the earth, Catharisi, born and brought up. He's lived in Uduasha only maybe like the last maybe 10 years. He's got a cool nickname. He's called Ramu the Golden. And they basically, the story basically explains.
Like, so they all fight with sickles, right? As well as swords.
So
he's got a golden sickle.
He's got a golden sickle. Excellent. Yeah, he's Getafix, but like much younger. And the report basically says that he's a very charismatic man who's been like fundamental in making sure that the Catharisi are able to defend themselves against ruffians, are able to like manage some self-respect, are able to like interact with the bureaucracy that would otherwise be so terrible and difficult. You know, Ramu is like their champion and like looks out for them, and like he's so cool, and like obviously, you know, there are some rumors that he's involved in unsavory things, but all of those rumors are really like so that's from people who don't like him. Yeah, and I think that like even though you want him to be like quite unpleasant, at least this report, which is probably a little biased, makes him out to be like a man of the people who is doing the best he can with the resources that he has.
Well, that's fine. That's great, because if he's a man of the people, then like I know this really this really up and coming Iruvian entrepreneur who's got a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
So this clearly going to be a cakewalk.
I do want to try to avoid making this score another social one. Like as much as it makes sense to just set this up, I would like for this to be a more action-packed score, right? Where we end up in opposition somehow. I'm just flagging that.
Yeah, no, I think so. One of the reasons that like I know that he is the head of the Rising Moon School is that like he's not interested in being talked down, and he's very good so far at violence, but violence is likely to be the thing that might convince him, because there is no way, I think, if you turn up and you say, why don't you work, and be nice to him, he's going to be very suspicious of it, because you won't be the first person to try that.
Do we have to beat this guy in a duel?
Honestly, you could, and he would be exactly the kind of person who would A, be up for that, and B, probably cheat, because he doesn't think honor exists. So yeah.
Maybe we should challenge him to roof ball or something.
Oh no, he doesn't play roof ball, and he definitely thinks that it is sport for people who have too much time on their hands.
It is a sport for decadent city folk, obviously.
Yes.
On the countryside, they play ultra cricket.
There are no roofs on the countryside. Can't play roof ball.
Yeah, correct. I'm gonna think this week, by the way, Prince, about what ultra cricket looks like, and then
good.
You're gonna regret it. So great.
Good.
Yeah. So that is kind of like your target. Is there any other gallery info anyone wants to do? Joan or Abbas? Or we could just cut to it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, Joan?
Yeah, agreed.
Great. Okay. So I never do this because I'm always scared it's going to backfire. But before we roll engagement or anything, let's do the thing where we smash cut, which I'm told Blades is great at. So I think that we see Damu the Golden, and he doesn't just have a sickle. He's got, I think, a sickle and a chain attached to the sickle. And the other side of the chain is like a counterweight, like a big metal ball. And he wields both with deadly accuracy. And then the camera cuts, because we don't know yet what he's going to look at. But as he comes out, we see him, and he does not look, I think, particularly, if you saw him on the street, you'd be like, oh, he's just a person. And then you kind of look at his eyes, and the eyes are of a person who has done way too much shit he should not have to save his people. And whatever this is doesn't even scratch like the surface of that. Okay?
Is his ball and chain like some form of threshing flail?
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Japanese weapon, the kusarigama.
That's probably where I got it. Yes, I knew there was like something in my brain that was like, oh, I've seen this. Yes, that's probably what it is. Correct.
Yep, very appropriately, it is a modified farmer's tool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great.
Good.
Okay. Right. So let's do engagement.
So is our point of entry a duel? Did we just decide on that?
Yeah, basically, like you said it, and I was like, you know what? Let's just like commit to that. Like whether it means the duel is actually happening, whether it means he turns up, there's nobody there, and then you like blow him up,
or a boss defeating him with facts and logic.
Facts and logic, and also a bomb.
I'm happy for it to be a duel, but it's like, even though that sounds cool, like how do we, like, is that what we're doing?
I think, I have a setup here. It's a little complicated, but bear with me. I think what happens is that we contact him and be like, we have an offer you can't refuse, and somehow he takes that as meaning we want to fight him.
Yes.
I know why. I know why he wants to make it a fight. He knows that the Skovlanders have been reaching out to us. He knows that we're in with the Skovlanders. They know all of this. So obviously, take out their biggest allies. That'd be great.
So how about this? we're sort of changing the detail a little bit here, but I think this is fine. I don't think this is a duel. I think that what we do is we provoke him into attacking us. He comes to our temple and like picks a fight with us. This has advantages and disadvantages because we have home turf, but we're also not necessarily prepared for it.
Oh my god, it's gonna be Home Alone.
Yeah. I think that could be a cool setup. Like him and a couple of guys are planning to go over to the temple and like fuck us up, right? Send a message.
And how do we imagine that them just to get the logic really solid? How do we imagine that them attacking us will help the Skovlanders deal with their sickle problem?
Well, if we take out the leaders of the gang, like if we get attacked and the leaders of the gang get defeated, then the leaders of the gang lose face. Like they might not die, but
yeah, if you tell Hudl that you were intending on embarrassing this guy, he will use that opportunity.
Exactly, yeah. So probably that's our plan. You know, we intend to like embarrass him somehow, and then he just lashes out with violence and attacks us before we have time to do it. But if he fails, then he has embarrassed himself, and we're still alive.
Okay, I think in that case,
I was gonna say that. I mean, it's entirely possible that this guy, if not, like if the Kethrisi don't already like believe this, like this guy's been ingraining into the Kethrisi the importance of strength and like rule by power, and if he loses, then to us, then we become de facto the new leaders of the Kethrisi.
That is absolutely not how it's going to work. But I love that Abbas thinks
something like that.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So in that case, I have a couple of ideas. The first is let's say that in fact that image we had of him turning up with the weapons, he's not actually looking at any of you. He's looking at the rest of his team, right? Who are coming to get you. And the reason that like he's carrying his weapons is that all of them have just got ready, right? And they're all coming for you. And the second thing is, I think actually this makes sense as a reverse engagement, which is that we should go through the process, but answer all these questions from the Kethrisi's point of view, because they're attacking you.
Okay, interesting.
Sure, never done that before, but why not? Let's screw with the rules.
Yeah, I think like it can be interesting to see it from the other side, and I also think fictionally it makes sense because you're being attacked. You are not actually, they are engaging you, right? You don't necessarily know that he's going to go from nothing to assault.
I'm intrigued.
Or maybe you do. We'll see how he rolls. So, is this plan particularly bold or daring? Yes. They're coming for you.
Yeah.
So they start with one for sheer luck. They get one for bold or daring. Mm-hmm. Is it particularly complicated or dependent on loads of parts? I don't think so. They're going to turn up and fuck you up.
It's a kick in the door plan.
Yep. I actually don't have the engagement thing in front of me, so I'm just going off my memory. Can any of your allies contact, etc.? It seems like they did know that they had information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they got that information from a contact, but they will lose that die because you are the target and their rivals, the Skovlanders, are helping you. So they're back to 2 dice.
So one of the questions you missed is, does the plan's detail expose the vulnerability of the target, hit them where they're weakest?
Yes. Correct.
No, I guess.
I don't think it does.
No.
I think they're just kicking the door. And does the target have special defenses? We don't have security yet, do we?
I mean, no, you have the first level of secure, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We have the first level of secure, but then we do have defenses, actually.
Exactly. Yeah. So they lose the die for this.
Keep saying Home Alone. I'm going to say it many times in this session.
Yes. I was just about to say, I think our first level of defense is a half-finished escalator. Try to navigate that.
Excellent.
We'll just flick the switch and put it on reverse. And they'll never be able to get up here.
They're at 1 die, but I think they will get another die because when we think about other factors and so on, they are higher tier than you. So they will get a die for being tier 3 when you're only tier 1. Is there anything on your side that you expect to take a die away from them?
I think one thing that I'd give a die to them is they're very practiced at attacking people and kicking their shit in, whereas we have no practice in being attacked and having our shit kicked in.
Fair. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that's 3 dice then.
I think that's it. So 3 dice for them.
One thing. And you can tell me if this works.
Mm-hmm.
We have Glory Incarnate, which means we get an extra dice when we do something that fits our god, and we lose a dice when it kind of goes against our god's agenda. Does this work in reverse and reduce one of their dice?
I think in this case it would, because it's again another factor, right? Explicitly, this hospitality as a principle, both being invoked by the people who are asking you, and then you saying, yes, that is the principle you're using, right?
It's
Sure.
true. And they are violating it too, because they're being very bad guests. So
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't violate guest right in either direction.
Yeah. There's also another broader metaphysical consideration where the entire reason that they're criminals and their entire conflict is about how they couldn't move with the times.
Okay, so they have 2 dice. Amazing.
Okay. I'll roll in engagement because I don't think I've done that yet. This game.
Sure.
Excellent. Yeah.
Roll and use your terrible luck, I guess, because now we want to roll low, so that's funny.
No, I have great luck. What are you talking about?
6.
I keep saying.
So a 6 and a 2. So it actually goes really well for them, apparently. They start in a controlled position. I'm going to take a 5-minute break after this, because I think I need some water, and also we should back away for a second. But the way that I imagine the 6 looking is that you are caught completely off guard. And I think Ramu is both pragmatic and terrible enough that so they will turn up. Let's say that there's maybe 5 or 6 of them, not so many that people will be like, excuse me, where the hell are you going? But enough that, they cut like a figure, right? And they're just
I think it should
walking.
be more. I think it should be more because we have we have quite a few gangs under us, so I don't think it makes sense for them to come with just about as many people as we have in a
I think
group.
5 or 6 makes sense because they are trained fighters, and we
That's
have.
true.
Okay, my roof ball guys can actually fight, but our occultists are not warriors.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're doing a surgical strike.
Each of these guys is very dangerous, to be clear. They are each. They don't call them ustads because they are not cool enough, they don't have the tradition. I don't think each of them is necessarily an ustad, but they're all roughly of that level. Each one of them is like a dangerous warrior, right? And so 6 of them is like a sizable force. The reason I didn't want to make it more is that if I say 20, then in terms of numbers, it becomes bigger, but it doesn't necessarily increase the complexity.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think they turn up, and I think he spots Zajidan, who is drinking his chai on this roof, and he sees the old man up there. He knows who Zajidan is, of course, and he looks at one of his compatriots and just points to Zajidan, and you see that in fact what they do is, in a swift movement, they clamber up the side of the temple, and they have your father surrounded. And that is the controlled position they're in, which is that they are right now, they have someone very important to you who cannot defend himself, and there's almost nothing that Zajidan can do about it. So you're in trouble, right? But
5 flashback for Zajidan to be a black belt.
sure. Let's say that he's the kind of black belt where he can do one amazing technique and then he's literally gonna faint, like in those Japanese manga where it's yes, I'm amazing, but I can only do this for 10 seconds, and then I'm shortening my life.
Okay.
So he learned the other half of whatever Abbas's star invocation is, where he So Abbas has the spirit bomb or whatever. Yes, of course. One of you knows the Shoryuken and one of you knows the Hadouken. There you go.
Yeah, very good. That's what it is. Very good. Okay.
Hadouken.
And so blows out our brief candle. I named the disciples of the Ceaseless Temple thus, with both their given names and taken. Soumithri, called Tree. Zoheb, called Klow. Prince, Emma, and Aadiyat, called Soap. Intro music, Jalandhar by Kevin MacLeod. Outro music in Keeravani Ragam by Srinivas. Blades in the Dark by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions. Iruvian playbooks by Johnstone Metzger. Follow us at Desperate Attune on Twitter or email us at desperateattune@gmail.com. Support us at kofi.com/desperateattune.
The next time on Desperate Attune.
Yeah. Also, I think this is why it's desperate, is because I have, in order to pull this off, I have to get into point blank range.
I'm not in a position to assist, but I'm wondering if Abbas is, if he's around jogging outside on his morning jog. I don't know if he could distract them or something.
Yeah, I was thinking what the best time is to come into it, but I guess yeah. I guess Abbas could be climbing up the same stairs that Miraz did, right? He just sees smoke, and he's expecting Zatilan to be there. I don't know. I guess Abbas can be just jogging right back up the stairs, and goes, "Hi, are you up there? Did Vickers burn the breakfast again?"
Klow has a bargain, and so do I. But I want to hear Klow's first.
Okay. Joan has to get really, really close to shoot this guy. So close that regardless of whether or not she succeeds, she will not be able to get out without fighting her way out.
I was going to say, whatever happens, you will be compelled to take a bite out of this. Because you should struggle with your bite, I think. And there was a cannibal on screen not so long ago.
I think the fight outfit Devil's Bargain is probably already gonna happen.
Fab.
So I will take the second one.